What is going on, everybody? How we doing? Can we hear ourselves?
Oh, yeah.
You there?
Yes.
You there? We good over there? Excellent. We're good here if you're good there. Yeehaw. Okay, first off, welcome back. It's Wednesday. It's Wednesday. We're going to rock out some more today, aren't we? Going to have a good time. We're going to kind of continue a little bit of what we did last week. There's been some good feedback and answered some good questions and had some good conversations with people over this last week about different guitar things. So we
Back to the future.
We got sound going everywhere in here. So yeah, over the last week I've had some great conversations with people about different guitar stuff. So we thought, because it seems to be a hot topic and everybody's interested, and we are too, we've been doing so much guitar tracking lately, that we'd just do another round, do an alternative way to track some stereo guitars, and also talk a little bit about arrangement and how arranging, your parts will have an effect on your recording as well. Then if we have time, there's one other thing we'll get to, and we'll see from there. So basically, we left off last week with our doubled guitars. We use same guitar, same amp. That amp right there in the room, only the head is getting used. The cabinet is a dummy cab. It is just to put the head on, and it looks cool, which is really what matters. Just to remind everyone that the way we run this is we have the head in here. We have tie lines built into our patch bay that allow us to, they're actually speaker lines, so we can have the head in here and it runs out to the live room where the guitar cab is and our mic setup is. Can you throw up that? This is our setup. We have our good old Heil PR30, slightly off axis and angled back towards the center of the cone, and our trusty MXL R144 ribbon mic that is slightly off to the edge of the dust cap. And that's our setup. That's what we used last week. That's what we're using this week. All right, so here's the difference. We have the same amp, same settings, different guitar.
Yes.
What do we have today?
This is a Framus, kind of like a Les Paul hybrid. I say hybrid because it has the Fender scale and it's a bolt-on, right? So as you can see, it's bolt-on right here. So that's why it's a hybrid. So it's not a true Les Paul, but it has a very similar sound, and the pickup is different, and that's pretty much all you need to make a difference in guitar tracking, right? And the fingerboard is also different. This one is rosewood, and this has a maple top. There's no tremolo, so this is a fixed bridge. So enough components to make the guitar sound different. And this one has a little bit less punch and gain, so it's more like the traditional rock sound, AC/DC type.
Right. So what we're going to start off with, let's just remind ourselves where we left off from last week. Let me just play a little bit of this verse and chorus with our stereo guitars. All right, so that was our sound from last week. That same guitar, same amp, same everything. So what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna mute the right guitar and we're gonna track, let's just do that much. We'll do that intro piece, the verse, and pre-chorus and that first chorus, and just play the actual part, not the second part yet.
Okay.
So we're just gonna take it through with the second guitar and see if how that changes, if at all, our stereo image or the feel of our kind of wall of guitar sound. Yeah, that guitar actually, they fit pretty well together, but that one's has more of a growl to it.
Yep.
You know, so that, I mean, that's one thing we talked about last week too was, let me make sure the lav's on, that if you're using more than one guitar, especially if you want the wall of guitar thing, where it's not two separate parts, that they kind of have to match a little bit at least. They have to work together. One can be a little brighter, one can be a little fuzzier, but if they're too different, you'll lose your wall of guitar thing and you'll either get an unbalanced sound or you start going for just a different sound altogether, right?
Yep, that's the idea.
You know, so one of the things that we wanted to talk about was that this is kind of AC/DC style of things where the parts aren't always the same thing, where maybe the verses, there are two different parts going on and things come together in the choruses, so you start to build this kind of in and out kind of, I don't know, it's like an elastic thing, really.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like a Q&A. Yeah?
Right.
Yeah.
And it can do interesting things on how the tune feels. So what we've done is we've sat down and figured out a couple simple parts that we're going to change. We're going to keep this guitar for one, you know, just because it sounds cool. But even if you had the same guitar, this would have a very drastic effect on how you perceive your stereo image, just because the parts are not going to be different. So what's going to come up is he's going to have a different part on the verse and the pre-chorus. And then we're going to bring things back together into that wall of sound on the chorus.
Yes.
And see how that kind of changes our stereo field and just the overall vibe of the tune. It's going to be a whole different ballgame now. I think I stopped you a little early. I was rushing the downbeat there, man. It's not good as a drummer. Not good to rush. I don't know. That's actually a really cool.
Yeah.
That's a very useful tool if you want to build some movement into your song, even if you're thinking down the road for mixing. But it's also a great way to just change how you kind of perceive the stereo field.
Yeah.
The first thing I noticed with you doing chunky eighth notes on the right and then the chords on the left is all of a sudden the drums and bass had way more room.
Yeah.
Things seemed a little bit punchier in the middle. And the guitars felt a little wider.
Yeah, it's just because you're hearing different things. Yeah, you have the true perception of stereo. Yeah.
Yeah. And then when it comes in on the chorus, things like that wall of sound come back and it kicks in nice and big. You got anything to add to that?
No, I just want to reiterate the fact that stereo guitars, they have to be two different performances. You know?
Yes.
Too many people think, oh, I'll just copy it, you know, and then sometimes they do the trick of delaying the copied file by a couple of samples, so you get that really fake stereo, and it's not the same. It's not the same.
All right, last thing. I think we got time to do this.
Yes.
Want to do a little lickage?
Yes.
Okay.
Sure.
First off, we're gonna make a head change. Play a little bit.
All right, yeah. Let me get the volume here going. Just let me know if that's enough, or I can crank it a little more.
You can crank it a little more.
More?
Yep. Ooh, that's good. Actually, let me get these out the right channels.
Yeah, you can hear right away. It's
Play again.
the gain is just so different. Just because gain, the real gain, not the gain from pedals. I mean, the gain from the preamp of all these amps has so many overtones, just makes especially the low notes just so much fatter and prone to feedback, prone to noise, all that stuff. So you got to really handle your instrument, because it just makes lots of noise.
But for licks,
Yeah.
solos,
Yes.
it's got a great bite to it.
Yeah,
I'm-
lots of sustain.
Right. And I'm assuming as a player too, it's an action-reaction thing, right? The way
Yes.
the amp reacts.
Yeah, totally.
Right. All right, play a little bit real quick. Let me make sure we're cool. Groovy. Let's go find our spot. Nailed it. Nice. This dude is like the one-take solo lick guy, man. We recorded all last week, and I think there was one solo that was done 2 takes. It was just because he wanted to play something different. It's crazy. But I noticed the first thing I get right away is the way, there's no delay, there's no reverb.
Yeah.
It is just guitar, amp, and that's it. But the way that bite that's on there, it comes out, it jumps out, which is, once we get the vocal on there and start hearing that, it's going to be cool, because this is, for all intents and purposes, this is another vocal during that part, and it's going to play in and out with the actual vocal. And that gain, right,
Yeah.
is what's helping it kind of come out and jump out of speakers, right?
Longer notes, they don't die out that fast. Yeah. Another thing you can do just to change the performance a little bit, if you don't have a different guitar, maybe just back off the gain just a hair when you record again, or maybe just add a little more mid-range, and that's it. There's your other guitar.
Right, if you're using the same amp.
Exactly.
Right, so you can just slightly change that
And
one.
same guitar as well.
Right. Yep. Just little changes like that. Often they don't have to be huge. Just tiny changes will just help keep things wide and a little bit different and not start to sound mono. Because if it is the same, or too much the same, it's going to start to pull in towards the center.
Yeah.
So,
Especially when you copy.
especially when you copy, yes. That's why, like he said, like Ernesto said earlier, the important thing to stress is 2 takes. At least 2 takes. You can do more if you want, but at least a left and a right full different take. You want to solo out a little bit over the outro? All right, let's do that. I'm going to have him blare it out, blast it out over the end. I think we're going to have to keep that. That was pretty freaking cool, man. All right, you guys, thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week with some cool stuff. And until then, happy recording. See y'all.
Later.